Stop, take a deep breath, and forget everything you've been told about the ANC's supposed loss in the 2024 elections. Because here's the truth. South Africa didn't suddenly choose better leadership. The ANC didn't lose its support because voters decided to vote for competence, integrity, or reform. No, what really happened is far more unsettling and far more telling. The ANC's voter base didn't vanish, it didn't disappear, it simply split. One faction stayed loyal to the current ANC leadership, the other migrated to a new party. A party that doesn't represent a break from the past, but a continuation of it under a different name. And if you've been hearing that South Africans rejected the ANC for a non-majority government, you've been fed a lie, a dangerous lie. Let's look at the numbers, stripped of spin and media narrative. In 2019, the ANC held 57.5% of the vote, a comfortable majority in the National Assembly with 230 seats. The DA trailed with 20.77%, the EFF at 10.8%, and all the other parties combined barely made a dent. Minor parties hovered in the low single digits, some gaining a few seats here and there, but nothing nationally significant. Fast forward to 2024. The ANC dropped to 40.18%, losing 71 seats, falling to 159. A dramatic headline? Absolutely. But here's the kicker. The party that absorbed most of this lost support isn't a new opposition champion of accountability or reform. It's UMKHONTO we Sizwe, which captured 14.58% of the vote, earning 58 seats. Now do the math. Add those 14.58% to the ANC's 40.18%, and what do you get? Roughly 54.76%. That's still a majority, still more than half of South Africa's voting population. In other words, if UMKHONTO we Sizwe had not existed, if there had been no formal faction to siphon off votes, the ANC would still be comfortably in control. The narrative that the electorate chose differently is fiction, plain and simple. Here's what the media and political commentators want you to believe: that South Africans decided, collectively, to move away from the ANC and embrace a multi-party future. That somehow, in 2024, voters collectively said, enough of the ANC, let's give the DA, EFF, or other parties a real shot. But the numbers tell a radically different story. The DA in 2024 barely improved, moving from 20.77% to 21.81%. That's just over a 1% increase, netting only 3 additional seats. EFF dropped slightly from 10.8% to 9.52%, losing 5 seats. Other opposition parties either stagnated or shrank. The rise of the opposition narrative? That's smoke and mirrors. The people didn't suddenly demand change through the DA, EFF, or any other party. They either stayed with the ANC, migrated to the faction loyal to Zuma, or abstained entirely. Let's put this bluntly. The opposition didn't gain a surge of public confidence. The ANC didn't lose because voters suddenly became discerning. The ANC lost because it split thanks to internal factionalism that finally manifested in a new party. The rest of the opposition is still, by and large, in its traditional role, a token opposition that doesn't threaten ANC dominance in most provinces. The truth is raw and uncomfortable. The ANC is not a monolith. It never has been. For years, internal factions have existed, quietly vying for power. On one side, you have the leadership currently in charge, the incumbents responsible for decades of mismanagement, corruption scandals, and broken promises. On the other, the faction loyal to former President Jacob Zuma, still commanding significant loyalty among voters who remember his era as one of, let's call it, a different kind of governance. UMKHONTO we Sizwe essentially formalized this split. It gave the Zuma-aligned faction a political home, allowing them to register their votes separately. And here's the punchline. These voters aren't demanding reform. They aren't suddenly holding leaders accountable. They're still voting for the same leadership style, the same political approach, the same system that has left South Africa in economic stagnation, corruption scandals, and persistent inequality. If anything, the formation of UMKHONTO we Sizwe is proof that the ANC's internal divisions are not ideological breakthroughs. They are political survival tactics. Voters didn't abandon the ANC for a better alternative. They shifted their support to a faction promising loyalty to the past. And the ANC's current leadership? Still dominant, still in power, but now forced to contend with a visible rival from within its own ranks. This isn't just about election numbers. This is about the illusion of choice. Every news headline claiming ANC support collapses or South Africans reject the ruling party is misleading. The electorate didn't reject the party. They rejected one internal faction of the same party. The DA and other minor opposition parties still do not have the mandate nor the support to challenge the ANC at a national level. The ANC remains dominant. The narrative that a non-majority government is the result of enlightened voters choosing better options? False. That narrative lets the ANC off the hook for its failures and misleads the public into thinking that the country is trending toward reform. This is a dangerous misconception because it creates complacency among voters who assume that the opposition is growing in strength. It masks the reality. The same system persists, the same problems remain, and the majority of voters, whether staying with the ANC or migrating to its faction, are still endorsing leaders who are incapable or unwilling to fix what's broken. Let's get specific. Here's what happened between 2019 and 2024. ANC lost 17.3% of its vote. UMKHONTO we Sizwe gained 14.58%, almost the exact amount lost by the ANC. DA grew by a mere 1%, hardly enough to call it a shift in public trust. EFF declined slightly. Minor parties collectively stagnated or shrank. The math is undeniable. If you subtract the MK faction from the ANC's losses, the party would still have over 54% of the national vote, a comfortable majority. The opposition is not winning. They're not even really competing. And yet, the narrative is being sold that South Africans rejected the ANC en masse. That's simply not true. It's a narrative designed to give hope where there is none. The consequences of this misunderstanding are profound. False hope for reformers. Citizens may think that change is underway, that a non-majority government signals accountability. In reality, the leadership style of the ANC, whether current or Zuma-aligned, is still dominant. Media spin dangers. Headlines that claim the ANC fell mislead the public and normalize factional politics as progress. Complacency among opposition, DA, EFF, and others may ride this narrative of rising influence, but their actual numbers show minimal growth. Their role remains largely symbolic. Voter disillusionment risk. People may assume their votes are making a difference in terms of accountability, when in reality the power structures remain unchanged. The big lesson? The ANC didn't lose support because voters wanted better governance. The ANC lost support only in relative terms because of internal splits. The voters themselves are not rejecting corruption, incompetence, or the status quo. They are simply reorganizing their loyalty. So, the next time someone tells you South Africans rejected the ANC and chose change, stop them. Correct them. Because the truth is stark and unavoidable. The ANC voter base is still voting for failure, just under different banners. The opposition is not gaining meaningful ground. The notion of a non-majority government chosen by an enlightened electorate is a lie. The reality is, the same old forces remain in power. Nothing has fundamentally shifted. The people have not yet demanded accountability. They have not yet chosen competence. They have simply rearranged the deck chairs. And until the voters wake up to that reality, the cycle continues. South Africa didn't change. It just looks like it did on paper, and that illusion is the most dangerous thing of all. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. See you next time.